my morning attire to buy beer and snacks, then headed home. When I arrived, Joseph was leisurely sitting in a chair, having his coworkers grill the meat. "You're late. We're out of beer, and the snacks are gone. It's a disaster. Apologize to these guys for making this barbecue so dull. Say you're sorry for making it so boring." He demanded an apology. "I'm sorry for being late." I deeply apologized to his coworkers. Then Joseph stood beside me and said, "Sorry. My wife Amanda is really useless. She'll get more snacks ready in no time." He made fun of me, calling me incompetent, but his coworkers were all silent. Not getting the reaction he expected, Joseph said, What's wrong? Is it because the beer isn't your favorite brand?" "No, it's not that." One of his coworkers looked at my outfit and asked, "Amanda, is that what I think it is?" He pointed at my clothes. I immediately answered the question, slightly looking down. "Oh, today is my brother Steven's funeral. We're still holding the service, but Joseph asked me to run an errand. So I left in the middle to buy this. Sorry, I didn't have time to change." When I answered, my colleagues started buzzing. Then, one of them urged Joseph to attend the funeral. "Hey, why didn't you tell us something so important? We'll handle the cleanup, you go to the funeral." It was a perfectly reasonable response. But despite the consideration of my colleagues, Joseph made a statement that left everyone stunned. No. Building relationships with the living is more important than a funeral." When he said that, my colleagues looked at him with disbelief. It seemed they thought it was useless to talk to Joseph, so they apologized on his behalf. "Amanda, we're so sorry. We had no idea about your situation and used your house for a barbecue without permission. We'll clean up and leave right away, so please return to the funeral." "What? No. It's not a big deal if Amanda doesn't attend the funeral. Besides, we'll clean up the house quickly and have a drink together this evening." Joseph dismissed the funeral as something insignificant, and my colleagues looked at him with puzzled expressions. Joseph, completely oblivious to their reactions, ordered me around. "Hey! Hurry up and clean up! Everyone's staying for dinner, so prepare that too." Finally, my colleagues scolded the arrogant Joseph. "Joseph! What are you thinking? Amanda is in the middle of her brother's funeral." "What? Yeah, so?" Joseph seemed not to understand what they were trying to say. Frustrated, they explained. "What do you mean, yeah, so? I never thought you'd be so heartless. Amanda, you should reconsider your relationship with him." They looked at Joseph with cold eyes. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Joseph started sweating and making excuses. "No, it was a joke. You guys are overreacting. What if this actually leads to a divorce, huh?" Joseph laughed, trying to lighten the mood. But it backfired. "No, even as a joke, it's unforgivable." Everyone agreed with that sentiment. Then they told me to return to the funeral right away. "We'll handle Joseph. Sorry for using your yard without permission, but please let us stay a bit longer." "No, I'm the one who should be thanking. Feel free to use the yard." I took their advice and headed back to Steven's funeral. I hurried back, just as the cremation was about to finish. "Amanda!" Dad rushed over, looking worried. "Sorry for making you worry. But it's okay now." Joseph's colleagues, who were at our house, told me to come back immediately once they learned about the situation. They even said they'd talk to Joseph. It was reassuring. When I told him what happened at home, Dad looked relieved. But he still seemed dissatisfied. "It's fine to leave it to his colleagues, but I want to say something to Joseph myself. Dad looked angrier than I had ever seen him. I understood why. I had left it to the colleagues for now, but I also planned to talk to Joseph later. I feel the same. I won't be satisfied until I say it myself. Agreeing with Dad, we promised to talk to Joseph after the funeral. As the funeral neared its end, we heard some commotion in the distance. When I looked over, I saw Joseph wobbling unsteadily, his eyes red from being severely scolded by his colleagues. "I'm so sorry for being late. Please let me attend Stephen's funeral too." Moreover, he wasn't wearing a suit but a tracksuit. Joseph had been enjoying a barbecue in that tracksuit, and he came smelling of grilled meat. The family members all gave him suspicious looks due to his inappropriate attire and clearly intoxicated behavior. But Joseph probably didn't even think about his outfit. Even with everyone staring at him, he didn't seem to notice anything. "Amanda, make sure Joseph stays in the upstairs waiting room. The funeral will be over soon, so have him wait until then," Dad instructed me in a voice only I could hear. His voice was trying to stay calm, suppressing his anger as much as possible. Following Dad's instructions, I called out to Joseph. "Joseph! Come over here for a moment." With the family members watching, I led Joseph to the waiting room. "What about the funeral?" "After my colleagues told me off, I wanted to apologize to Robert and Nancy and attend." Not understanding anything, Joseph was quickly interrupted by me. "It will be over soon. If someone dressed so inappropriately and not considering the occasion is here, everyone will get distracted. Cool your head and wait here until it's over." I instructed him and immediately went back. Despite the cold stares from the family members, I endured until the funeral ended. Once the funeral was over, Dad and I quickly headed to Joseph. Robert. My condolences. I'm really sorry about Stephen." While waiting for us, Joseph had probably looked up funeral etiquette and phrases online. His actions seemed so artificial, which further irritated Dad. "Joseph, what exactly are you doing here?" "Well, of course, I came to say goodbye to Stephen." He answered Dad's question, but I had already told Dad that Joseph prioritized the barbecue over the funeral. Joseph's excuse was immediately transparent. "No, you only came because your colleagues scolded you, didn't you?" With Dad's sharp question, Joseph became flustered. His demeanor alone was like an admission of guilt, but he desperately tried to cover it up. "No, that's not true. It may have ended up that way, but Stephen really helped me a lot, and I wanted to say my final goodbye." "Then why didn't you come from the start?" After Joseph made his excuse, Dad immediately asked. I wasn't about to side with Joseph, so I supported Dad. "That's right. If you really thought that, you should have canceled the barbecue plans. I'm sure your colleagues would have understood, even if you canceled on the day. You can have a barbecue anytime, but today is the last chance to see Stephen." When I said that, Joseph fell silent and looked down. "I heard what you said to Amanda. He said that building relationships with the living is more important than a funeral. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. It seems I was mistaken about you. I thought I could entrust Amanda to you, but I was wrong." As he spoke, Joseph started to realize what Dad was getting at. "Wait, please, wait. I want you to divorce Amanda. From now on, don't have any more involvement with her." Despite Joseph's attempts to stop him, Dad declared firmly, "Please, I'm asking you as well. I can't live with you anymore. Let's get a divorce." "Why so suddenly?" For Joseph, being asked for a divorce came out of nowhere. But for me, there were more than enough reasons beyond just the funeral incident. Since we got married, I've been forced to do all the housework under your orders, without any freedom. Even when I wanted to work, you wouldn't let me. You tell me to save money, but you're not supportive at all. And to top it off, your behavior at the funeral was so embarrassing. I struggled to keep my anger in check and spoke calmly. Joseph, being asked for a divorce by both me and my dad, seemed to have sobered up completely. He tried to persuade us somehow. Okay. You can go to work. And we don't need to save money anymore. If you work, we'll have more income, so you don't need to save. Yes, I'll allow it. I hate that condescending attitude. I wanted to have a calm discussion, but I had reached my limit. Why do you always have to say you allow or permit things? I'm telling you I hate that, but you're not getting it at all. I've been listening too, and I have to say, Joseph, you haven't been supportive of Amanda at all. I don't think your marriage can be fixed like this. Dad couldn't overlook the unfairness I was facing any longer. He stepped in to back me up. I'm sorry. I'll apologize, just please don't divorce me. When divorce was mentioned, Joseph desperately begged us to reconsider. I had a pretty good idea why he was so against it. You just don't want to handle the housework or pay the car and house loans by yourself, right? When I said that, Joseph's shoulders shook. It seemed I had hit the mark. That house with the big yard, if you neglect it, it'll be overrun with weeds. And because you were so cheap, the vacuum cleaner and washing machine are both terrible. Living alone in that house will be tough, won't it? Speaking slowly and in a low voice about the potential risks, Joseph's face turned pale as he imagined it. Seeing Joseph pale and silent, Dad spoke again. It'll be tough, but hearing about that house makes me even more sure Amanda can't live there. Joseph, write the divorce papers right now. Unable to bear the pressure from both of us, Joseph nodded without even making eye contact. Finally, I was able to divorce Joseph. After leaving the funeral home, I went back to our house to collect my things. Dad waited in the car while I went inside alone. Joseph spoke to me then. Hey, are you divorcing me because Robert said so? If that's the case, let's talk it over again, just the two of us. Actually, I had already talked to Dad about wanting a divorce. He didn't just decide that on his own. Joseph thought it was his chance with Dad not around, but I turned him down. Without further conversation, I calmly packed my things into the car. All right then. I'll submit the divorce papers. With that, Dad drove us back to my parents' house. Dad, thank you for stepping in. If it had just been me, I wouldn't have been able to get divorced. Don't mention it. I couldn't stand to see anything happen to my precious daughter. If Joseph bothers you again, let me know. Dad's promise to support me no matter what was reassuring. When we got home, Mom was worried about how things had turned out. I've decided to divorce Joseph. Sorry to trouble you with coming back to live here again. When she said that, Mom told me not to worry about it, repeating the same comforting words Dad had said earlier. I felt truly loved by my parents. After a while, I managed to get a job as a contract employee at a company near my parents' house. Having taken a break from working, I was initially anxious, but I was relieved to find myself in a very positive work environment. I was glad to have found such a great company, and my worries eased. From now on, I would be busy with work, but I also intended to actively help out with household chores. I constantly reminded myself not to become like Joseph. Since returning to work after the funeral, Joseph had been avoided by his colleagues. Despite boasting about the importance of building good relationships, he had failed miserably. It was almost laughable. From now on, Joseph would be known as an inconsiderate and terrible person at work. He would feel increasingly isolated, and his workplace relationships would deteriorate. No one would support him in his work either. Yet, due to the mortgage on the house and car, he would have to keep working at that job. Joseph would likely spend his days feeling miserable. I laughed heartily, feeling genuinely amused at his misfortune. Forgetting about poor Joseph, I decided to focus on living according to my own will and values. My name is Olivia. I'm 35 and have been married to my husband Lucas for 7 years. We have a 5-year-old son, Thomas. Normally, it's just the three of us living a peaceful life, but I have one major grievance. It's the long vacations and Christmas when we go to Lucas's parents' house. Only his parents live there, but during the holidays, his sister and her family join us too. During these gatherings, which sometimes exceed 10 people, I'm expected to handle all the meal preparations. Because I'm married to the eldest son, everyone seems to think it's my duty. His sisters don't help me at all. On top of that, they leave their kids with me and go out to have fun. Even Lucas doesn't offer me any help, so as the holidays approach, I start to dread them. Just the thought of preparing meals at my in-laws is painful, not to mention the harassment I endure from Lucas's mother, Ava. From the beginning of our marriage, Ava has criticized everything I do. The first time we went to visit after getting married, she told me out of the blue, "Olivia, please prepare all the meals while you're here." I was shocked. It was my first time in their kitchen, and everything was thrown at me. In a panic, I checked the fridge, finding almost nothing. I had to start by shopping for groceries. "Do you want anything specific to eat?" I asked with a smile without showing my irritation. "Just make something delicious. Don't check with us every time, just get on with the cooking." Jackson, Lucas's father, seemed nice and calm, but I couldn't figure out what he really thought. Ava was always openly hostile towards me. Even when I casually asked Lucas about his parents' favorite dishes, "Anything's fine, don't worry too much about it," he always responds so casually. Lucas is originally unreliable, but since then, my distrust in him has only grown. In the end, I decided to make a safe choice and cook curry. As the smell of curry began to waft from the kitchen, Ava started her snide remarks. "Curry gives me heartburn. I'll have to take some antacid tonight." Without time to make anything else, I served the curry for dinner. Ava complained that the curry was too spicy, or that she preferred pork over beef. "Anyone can make a decent curry," she remarked, leaving the comment hanging in the air, yet she went for seconds. Meanwhile, Jackson ate without saying a word, but after he finished, he let out a deep sigh and left the room. While Ava's reactions are irritating, Jackson's sigh feels more condemning than her snide remarks. Dealing with just my in-laws' meals is stressful enough, but it gets even worse when Lucas's sisters and their families join. Harper's family consists of Lucas's sister Harper, her husband Ethan, and their daughter. Harper, in her appearance and manner of speaking, is frighteningly similar to Ava. Together, they hurl insults at me, making it feel like there are two Avas. When Harper comes to visit, she expects me to handle everything from cooking to making beds. Of course, she doesn't thank me, she takes it for granted. Ethan, usually quiet around his in-laws and Harper, becomes tyrannical when they're not around. "Go buy cigarettes," he'd demand, treating me more like a housemaid than family. Their daughter Emma, much like Harper, seems spiteful. "Olivia, we're out of juice." Then Ethan would join in, ordering, "Olivia, I'm out of beer. Bring some." Laughing foolishly, the two of them enjoy themselves. They are usually quiet in front of Harper, probably because they're used to being scolded by her. They seem to let loose when at the in-laws. For me, who ends up doing all the work, it's unbearable. Natalie's family includes Lucas's sister Natalie, her husband Mason, and their son. Compared to the insidious Ava and Harper, Natalie is brighter and easier to talk to. She always comes to chat while I'm preparing meals. While it's nice to be approached so casually, Natalie doesn't help at all. At first, I used to listen to her seriously, but if she's not going to help, she's just in the way. Eventually, when I responded non-committally